All right, there you go. Well, welcome everybody to this week discussion. Well, I personally find this week very interesting. You know, the discussion and the topic about discipline. And to start, there is a lot of questions today and a little bit of a role play. But to start with, what do you think it's like to work as a TSA agent, or if you know anybody that have worked as a TS agent before?
I would think it'd be very stressful. You're seeing like thousands of people a day, and you have to make sure your job is right on. So, it can't be easy.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think anyone that works there, they have to be pretty spot on, basically really focused the whole time they're working. Some jobs allow you to you can mentally check out every once in a while, everything will be okay. But for them, they have to be, 100% focused on what they need to do.
Yeah. Jason, if you imagine that you have that job, what do you think would you like about it and what would you dislike about it? I mean, it's
And I'd
hard to
like,
imagine if
like
you
you
don't
said,
work on it, but
I don't know, like he said, it'd be nice where, I mean, the same thing would be both annoying and nice. It'd be nice to constantly to focus on all day to keep your mind off of things. So that way the day goes by a lot quicker. But then on the same also be very annoying because you never have any downtime.
yeah. Well, I think the same. You know, it probably is a very, very stressful position, especially leading with all the people in the airport. Usually, the people in the airport are not in a good mood for whatever reason because they are rushing, because they are stressed. And sometimes I think because you see sometimes other people working in places like that that they don't care attitude. I think you kind of have to keep that attitude, otherwise you are gonna get sick. You know, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about O'Reilly and Sanchez. What do you think, O'Reilly? What should O'Reilly do about Sanchez? I don't know if somebody want to explain a little bit what happened to Sanchez.
Sure. I guess the background is that O'Reilly she's done very well in the company. She's always been kind of on top of things. And so, but Sanchez is also kind of like her. He's also done pretty well. He's stands out. He helps the company. He's an asset. All these things, but he does have a weakness in this area of kind of like door security, where he's had problems in the past with it. And so I think one thing that is important to take into consideration, kind of like we talked about in the past, how just the whole hiring and training new people can be expensive, also costs you a lot of time. And so I think that can be kind of difficult, probably more expensive and difficult than just maybe addressing the problem and fixing it. So I don't think that firing is necessarily the number one option on this, personally. But that training and it even said it in the Get Abstract article. It talked about how managerial time should be focused on the good employees, and I would consider him one of the good employees. So it's worthwhile time spent to fix his problems.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to add anything?
I'm in the same boat. I wouldn't just fire him. But at the same time, with that type of position and, just the magnitude of it, she definitely has to be a little more stern. Not really stern, but I mean, just basically laying out, all the cards on the table. Say, hey, this is how it affects the company. This is what can happen to you if it happens again. And then, you can basically you do some tough love. You say, hey, we know that you do this really well, but we need you to abide by the standard. And so hopefully that would help him, at least motivate him to make basic changes so he can continue having success there.
Okay.
I agree with that because I do think he's getting a little complacent because there does come a time where, I mean, I'm sure we've all experienced this where we're pretty experienced in a job. We've probably even trained a couple people before. But at that point, it's kind of easy to get a little bit complacent to where, you feel like you've got things, you've got a good hold on things so you don't have to try as hard, or you can check out on occasion because you're able to multitask well. So I think that there does have to be some sternness involved just so they realize wow, this is a big deal and I shouldn't be, letting my guard down.
Yeah. Thank you. Now I have a question. If he doesn't get fired, how do you think the others TSOs, co-workers, are gonna think? Because you remember what he did, right? He took a personal phone call and stopped watching his area, and somebody passed through without going through security, and that delayed all the flights for 45 minutes, and not only affect that one flight, affect everything and nationwide, everybody that have connection flights. So it's a big deal. So how do you think, if he doesn't get fired, how do you think the other co-workers are gonna think, what they're gonna think?
So I think they could definitely consider it as he got a slap on the wrist, and that it doesn't mean as much, security isn't necessarily a bigger priority in their job, which of course it is. So it's kind of a hard situation, I think. If they see that he gets to keep his job, even if he goes through training and stuff, they're gonna maybe think it's not as serious as it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think one important thing with management, number one, you can't control what people think and say to a point. Especially in a world like today, everyone gets offended over everything anyway. So there's always going to be that one person at least that's going to think, maybe she did this wrong. But as management, you got to, number one, you got to be consistent. So if you're going to provide the opportunity for Sanchez, knowing that he's loyal but he's making stupid errors, you got to be willing to do that with the other ones. And then number two, you don't have to be, defending yourself way too much either. I mean, unless it's your superiors. So just, leave it out there, be direct with your follow-up reports with your leadership, and you're good to go. I've just learned at times, especially with my job, that if you keep it simple, usually things pan out the way they need to pan out.
Yeah. So do you think that discipline without punishment is the right approach in this case? Jason, what do you think? I think he's not there. Amanda, do you think that discipline without punishment is the right approach in here?
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, just Jason, go ahead if you can.
No, he's saying, Jason is saying that no, it's not the right approach. I think he couldn't hear us. We couldn't hear him. So Jason, what is the right I'm going to reconnect. Okay. And when you
Okay.
reconnect, tell us why you think, well, he left. Why, I want to hear why he think it's not the right approach. What do you think, Amanda?
So I think there should be some consequence to this incident. Like, he should have to go through training. He, he should take classes. Maybe the exit isn't the right area for him. Maybe he needs to be more involved, like right up front with the different travelers, going, like, checking their documents and stuff. Maybe that's a better position. And so I think a discussion with O'Reilly would be really good to have, as far as where he wants to be, what's going to work out for him.
Okay. Can you hear
Can you
us
hear
now,
me?
Jason?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. I like what you say. You say that it's not the right approach. Why do you think that?
Well, because actually, in some situations, like the TSA actually has unions, and a lot of situations with unions, if you don't, then you're treating them unfairly, and it sets a standard. Like at my dad's power plant, dad works at a nuclear power plant. I used to. Somebody got fired for sleeping on the job. Well, when they wrote it, instead of writing failure to perform duties, they wrote slept on the job. So what the union did was they went through any other case where somebody slept on the job in the union or on the power plant or got caught sleeping, whether it was the janitor, the security guard, anybody, and didn't get fired. And they used that as a case, and he actually got his job back because they're like, look, all these other times the guy didn't get fired, so obviously you were targeting him. So anytime you create these like exceptions, it's an exception that has to be brought across company wide. So you got to think, is this one case something I want to be in an exception? Because the union can make it an exception if you make it an exception once.
All right.
That's
Now,
fine.
based on what Jason said and Amanda, do you think doing this is going to be more secure for the airport or the public?
Doing these, what do you mean? Like doing the
Taking these actions, either having the union or what Amanda said that he needs more training or some type of punishment. Do you think this is going to make the airport or the public more secure or satisfied?
I agree with both Amanda and Jason. I think Jason's point is really good because you are going to cause problems company wide. But at the same time, if you are having these problems, and every time there is a problem, the person gets terminated, and that's like the first thing you do for each of these people, then you're gonna get a lot of. It's gonna become a very transitory job, because you're terminating. You eventually get to the point where you're terminating people that don't have the talent, so that thus they deserve to be terminated. So I feel like this cycle could happen. Whereas if there's additional training for those people who are experienced and are qualified for the job, they will make mistakes. It says it in the article, everybody makes mistakes. So it will happen, but it's a matter of if those mistakes are overcome. So I think the focus should be, I think there does need to be a space of time where the manager and the employee can evaluate their decisions and where they stand with the job. And also I wrote down that if they have that time, the manager can then decide, like, if this person is really taking this job seriously, like, was the mistake, because most mistakes are based off of two things, and I wrote it down. It's either rebelling or just being ignorant. Rebelling is just going against your knowledge that you have, and ignorance is just not having enough knowledge, so you make a mistake due to lack of knowledge. So that also has to be determined on, what kind of employee is Sanchez? Is he an ignorant one who is just getting lazy? Or maybe he doesn't have sufficient training. I mean, obviously he was on his phone. You know, is everybody on their phone? Or should that maybe be a policy that should be more heavily taught so that nobody's on their phone? You know?
So, Michael, based on what you just said, do you think it was the 45 minutes delayed? It was all Sanchez's fault, or it was somebody else have the fault, or it was two of them having the fault?
I think what's he accountable for? Did he have knowledge that him being on his phone was wrong? Or is that something that most people in his position are doing on occasion? So I think it does, in that case, it depends on what the company policy is, because I think that could be a policy issue, depending on if that's even allowed to just be on your phone or not, you know?
Yeah. Who think he should be fired? Nobody? All right. If nobody think that he should be fired, what would it take to fire him?
I think just to connect what Michael said, if it's on paper that's the policy, you know, just to avoid the issues that Jason brought up, you know, with the other employees, that needs to be a step of action. I mean, with a company like TSA, I mean, there's really no room for stupid errors or rebellious errors. So I'm just kind of the fence with it. It just kind of varies on what TSA's policy is with it.
Yeah. Now, what do you think TSA should do better to prevent this situation, or why can they do better to prevent this situation in the future?
So I was just
Well,
thinking.
some companies actually make you check in and lock your cell phone. Like, you're not allowed to have it, period. Like, they have lock it in at the beginning of work. That's it.
I agree.
Along with that, like, I don't know if TSA gives breaks or how they do that, but if they're not giving regular breaks, maybe they should. That way, somebody that's a single parent, like Sanchez, he could go and take a break and he can make that personal phone call, and he's not on the job. He's not worried about completing all of his responsibilities while making that phone call.
Yeah.
That is true. We did establish that this job would be kind of hard with the amount of mental focus it takes. And I think we all know with school and work that if you don't have break or the adequate amount of sleep, your job tanks, your school level tanks. So yeah, breaks definitely are important if that's not taking place.
Yeah, I personally think that, for example, we don't know the policy about cell phones, for them, if they can use at any time or only on the breaks. But it should be somebody to cover his area, like maybe tell him that coworker, oh, listen, I have an important phone call to answer or to make. Can you cover me, and don't just leave the thing unattended, because you remember when this happened, everybody was on the phone, security, and it was towards the end of the law enforcement, is stakeholders, government, and airlines. And within 4 minutes, they they have the alert, you know. So it was a lot of people involved for, you know, for answering just a phone call. Now we have to remember that he's a really good co-worker, and he really has a good spirit, you know, and people like him for his job. But I also think that if he's like that and he have experience, he should know better, no?
That's true.
All right, now we are gonna do a little bit of a role play, and I'm gonna pick two people. Amanda, you gotta be one because you're the only lady in the room. So you are gonna be O'Reilly, and Steven, you are gonna be Sanchez. Are you there, Steven?
I am still here.
Okay. Now remember the what we read at the end of the paper was saying that O'Reilly was waiting for Sanchez to let him know what her decision is. So the rest, we are gonna observe the conversation between two of you. So Amanda, you are O'Reilly. You are gonna tell Sanchez what punishment or what you are gonna do about the big mistake or the big breach, the 45-minute breach that he created.
Okay.
So time is yours.
I'm no good at this. Sorry, guys.
Maybe start with Sanchez. I need to talk to you.
There you go. Okay, Sanchez, I need to speak to you in my office.
What's up?
So we need to talk about the breach the other day. Can you explain what happened?
I don't know. I just had an important, I had something important on my phone. I had to look at it. So I guess it just kind of slipped by. It was my bad. It won't happen again.
Okay. Well, because of that, we're going to need you to take some security classes for the next 4 months.
Again?
Yeah, and you're going to have to retake the tests too.
That's unfortunate. Can you take it for me?
Well, it's either that or, you're going to have to leave the company.
Okay, I'll do it again. The bummer.
Okay, well, good luck.
We did it.
Yeah. Okay, Amanda or O'Reilly, what was difficult to say in this conversation?
I guess delivering bad news, he wasn't totally thrilled about it, so it's kind of hard to see if he really wanted to do it or not.
All right. Jason, do you think that O'Reilly did the right thing?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a role play, so it's a little different. But if an employee was talking like that in a disciplinary hearing, I'd be like, well, we're just gonna up this to fired. But obviously it's a role play. But yeah.
Michael, what would you have done differently if you were O'Reilly?
I thought it was a good job. I think that the way that Steven responded was difficult because it could mean multiple things. It could mean that he's being oblivious or that he doesn't care about what he did. And so you just have to ask questions to make sure that, you're identifying whether he's ignorant or he is rebellious. So a question maybe like, and role plays are hard to kind of come up with those on the spot. But I think a question of maybe like, how do you feel about what happened yesterday? Or what things do you think you could do to change, just to kind of get a deeper feel for how he feels about it, whether there's sorrow or not, and then like kind of maybe ask more questions. What caused you to make this mistake? Did you know that you were risking security by being on the phone? Questions like that to kind of help you understand what what they're going through and what his mindset is.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree. I think at least when I was on the other side of it, you really want to focus on the why, how, and what's. So why was the thing that you did, why was it bad? Because if the person can understand at the beginning, it's going to be a lot easier to at least carry out the rest of the conversation, even if the reaction isn't that good. You start with why it was bad, then you go to how it hurt the company or hurt your status or hurt whatever it hurt, and then what we're going to do to resolve it. So it kind of just, it gives you a leeway into what the actual decision is. And that's true for not even just disciplinary things, but also for any general like performance reviews, things like that. You want people to understand the why before you get into the what's.
Yes, I like that. I think it's very important that he understand how big or how many. This is a good example of that we made decisions, but we cannot control the consequences. This when above and beyond, and yeah, it's important for the other person to understand what the mistake was, and most important, how to fix it. Now a question, anybody can answer this. How would you tell someone you respect and care that they are not performing?
Kind of going back to what Stephen was saying, like
Yep.
tough love, just being like, hey, I really liked how you've done this, and that in the past, and I've been very impressed. But this has really hurt our company.
Do you think that telling that to somebody that you care, it could be not only in the job, it could be like, your brother, your sister, a relative, even at church, your counselors, you're not performing, you're not helping enough. Why do you think it's hard to tell somebody that they are not performing well, or that you are not satisfied with their job?
Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, why do you think it's hard to tell somebody that they are not performing?
Oh, well, like in the case of O'Reilly, I mean, she knew Sanchez pretty well. I mean, it's one thing if you don't know the guy, but if you know him pretty well, that's one thing. I just had this situation happen. I had to release one of my counselors in the elders quorum last Saturday, and I know him pretty well. In fact, he had been reactivated into the church, and I worked really close to help, to reteach that family. And so going to him, telling him that he needed to be released from a calling because of inactivity and things again was really difficult. So, I mean, I guess that kind of answers that part of the question. And generally it's because, you love them. You don't have to be super close to them, but you realize that you don't want the bad to happen to people, even if there is a consequence they have to go through.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, we are making a final decision about Sanchez. And I need to know what your opinion is. If he needs to be fired, if he needs to put Sanchez on a probation, give Sanchez a paid leave, or require Sanchez to review additional training. I kind of know your answer, but Amanda, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I think if Sanchez is really sort of unaware of cell phone policy and the security risks that went along with that, then he should be retrained. If he was just, he knew the rules, he just did it anyway, he should probably be put on probation, not fired, because he really hasn't done anything like that before. And so he just needs some time to think about it.
Yeah, thank you. Jason?
Question again?
What do you think we should do with Sanchez? Be fired, put Sanchez on probation, give Sanchez a paid leave, or require Sanchez to receive additional training?
And training, and do both. If you're ever on probation, they have to be retrained. But your probation, you should only be put on certain duties, and he's caught with his cell phone more time. And it also goes back to what we said earlier about, what's written on paper, like what's the official rule, what's just the guideline. If this is something that's really bad, then it needs to become an official rule. If it is already an official rule, then it's probation with retraining. If it's not an official rule, then I think just retraining, and then it becomes an official rule, something like that. I don't think paid leave is a punishment.
Well said.
Michael?
Yeah, I definitely agree with both those answers. Yeah, I mean, training goes a long ways. Probation should go a long way. And you can measure, you can still measure the results. So if it seems like it's reoccurring, or that he's not taking training seriously, or that, there's signs of continued rebellion, then that edge should be pushed towards firing. So, but yeah, other than that, that's, I think, a good process that Jason and Amanda mentioned.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Stephen?
I'm sorry to ask again. Can you repeat the question? I had to step away for a second.
It's fine. We are taking kind of a vote what they should do with Sanchez. If he should get fired, put Sanchez on a probation, give Sanchez a paid leave, or require Sanchez to receive additional training.
I go a mix of a probation, and then while doing that, going through training, extensive training. I mean, if he's not willing to do that, then he's not willing to do anything. And I remember one time I got suspended when I was in third grade for something really stupid. And my mom made me read books about it for 2 weeks. Oh, it was awful. So I think adults should have to do the same thing.
All right.
Become subject matter experts, basically, is what it is.
Yeah, I kind of think the same. He needs probation with additional training and give Sanchez another chance. Now let me tell you what really happened to Sanchez. Sanchez got a warning but was not fired. However, 2 months later, he caused another serious breach. Now, what do you think we should do now? Or they should do now? Because we are all defending Sanchez in here, but he made another big mistake. So how do you feel about it now?
Adios Sanchez.
Adios Sanchez, okay.
I think that's the kind of the purpose of having training too, though, is to help them not do it again. But if they're repeatedly doing it, there needs to be at least, like, a policy or something put out, like, you do this twice, you're done, And sometimes you need those people to make new policies, and Sanchez just might be the goat for that.
Mm-hmm. Amanda, what do you think we should do now?
I agree with Michael. He had a second chance and he didn't take it seriously. and so he caused another incident. Like, there's only so much you give guys so many chances. So.
Steven or Jason, do you want to add anything? What do you think we should do now, or what would you do?
Hasta luego, muchacho. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel too.
Yeah, adios, Sanchez. Okay, now, what do you learn about this case? What did you learn in this case about discipline?
Well, as we learn the gospel, there's a balance in all things. And so we have to be willing, as God gives us a chance to learn, to learn from our mistakes. But at the same time, there's consequences affiliated with your mistakes. And so, as long as the company is able to have policies and procedures to, train and give the employees all the opportunities that they need, then it's the employee's responsibility to balance it out and do their job. So at least that's something it reminded me of today.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, now to wrap up, what is the most important thing you learned from this case? Jason?
So, what's the most important thing we learned from this case?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, to me, all this was pretty obvious. Hey, don't be on your phone. Pay attention to your job. Make people follow the rules. Punish them when they don't. But I mean, I'd say it's probably having something in writing, having a protocols. That way, if something needs to happen, you have the reinforcement to actually do something about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it kind of reminds me of the Constitution and how there's always amendments being made, and so that's the same thing. There are problems that arise. You have to make a written rule or else they're going to keep surfacing. And so I agree. That's definitely one thing I'd learned as well, is just like the importance of having both the rule and the hammer, the judgment. There's got to be that, and that's how God works as well. So
Thank you. Amanda?
Yeah, so I really think, along with these guys, having a set policy so that, when a problem arises, what the necessary steps are, and kind of, and have it well informed for all of your employees so that they know where they stand and what kind of actions will be taken if mistakes are made.
Thank you. And you, Stephen? Maybe he stepped back. Okay, let's go to the next question. Overall, how do you grade this discussion from 0 to 10?
10. Terrific.
I thought it was really good. Good questions, good directive to, I guess, pick each person.
Okay.
So that's good.
Now,
Steven said 11.
okay, thank you, Stephen. That's very nice. Now, next two questions. What did I did as a leader that you like, and what can I do better next time? Nobody want to hear these answers.
I really have
Good
no.
job.
Yeah, I did a really good job. I would say one thing I really liked is that you call us out, you tell us, you use our names to answer a question, instead of just leaving every single question open to the whole group. So I'll be taking that for the next time I do it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I agree with Stephen. I really liked how you picked people for the questions. Like it kept everybody talking and everyone got to share their ideas.
All right.
Think you
Thank
did.
you.
Yeah, I think you did a good job.
Thank you, guys. All right, now I'm gonna stop broadcasting this, but I think we need to talk about who is leading next week and also about the project because it's due on the 25th. All right, let me stop this.